Good evening, and welcome once again to Matters of Faith. Sometimes I wonder, if faith, like hope, springs eternal in the human breast, why is it that some systems of belief just wither away? How does time whittle away at them, erode them into oblivion? Our history books speak to us of extinct religions. Can a religion ever really be extinguished? What dies? The religion itself, or the paraphernalia that sometimes surrounds it? Perhaps the death of a religion that cloaks itself on the habits of pomp and power, and not those of ordinary people, is inevitable. Religions, like languages, need to be sustained from below by the millions who employ it unself-consciously in their everyday lives, rather than by kings and courtiers whose belief in the immortality of their own power overrides their faith in God. Faith, like language, must be dynamic, ever willing to harmonize the old and the new, forever reminding men that there are no new truths to be told, only old verities that men need to be reminded of. Like a living language, a living faith needs perhaps to be somewhat open-ended, constantly adding to itself, reinventing itself, even as it sheds superfluity. Faith, like language, must keep pace with the human imagination, with human inventiveness, and most importantly, with contemporary human anxieties. In our Pilgrim's Progress segment tonight, we visit the shrine of Our Lady of Good Health at Velangani in Tamil Nadu, where we see a perfect example of a living faith that responds to the inner needs of hundreds of thousands of people every year.
One of the holiest churches of South India is the Roman Catholic shrine of Velangani, the seat of Our Lady of Good Health as she is officially known. To the thousands who come to Velangani every day, Our Lady of Good Health is quite simply Annai or Mother. Like a mother, she is generous, bountiful, undemanding, and ever-loving. She transcends all denominational barriers, attracting the faith of Hindu, Muslim, and Christian alike. They share a common and unshakable conviction in her grace and her capacity to heal. The Velangani shrine is one of the Lourdes of the East. The story goes that one stormy day, the tide brought the image of Our Lady onto the beach at Velangani. Even as the local inhabitants wondered about the origin of the image, they spotted a ship on the horizon that was obviously in dire straits. Immediately, they knelt and prayed to the statue. Their prayers bore fruit. Against the odds, by a miracle as it were, the ship managed once again to sail on an even keel and come into the port of Nagapattinam. In gratitude, the sailors and the villagers of Velangani erected the shrine. Subsequently, many miracles have been attributed to Our Lady of Velangani. She provides succor to the sick, the infirm, the ailing, and the wounded. They have very little to offer her. A bewildering variety of flowers, for one thing, followed by the sacrifice of their luxuriant locks. Many disabled devotees make a curious little offering, images crafted in gold or silver of the part of the body that is afflicted. A ritual bath in the Bay of Bengal is a must, the concluding rite of a pilgrimage, during which every devotee echoes the prayer of David. Incline thy ear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my life, for I am godly. Save thy servant who trusts in thee. Thou art my God, be gracious to me, O Lord, for to thee do I cry all day. Gladden the soul of thy servant, for to thee, O Lord, do I life up my soul. For thou, O Lord, art good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call on thee.
The problem sometimes when we consider the place that faith occupies in our lives is the way we look at history. More often than not, history tends to be an account of military might and political domination. We divide Indian history into convenient historical compartments, pre-Aryan, Aryan, Vedic, Buddhist, and so on, until today. This makes us overlook the fact that faith does not necessarily transit from one compartment to the other so conveniently. There is, for instance, no Jewish period in Indian history. Yet the fact is, as our myriad part story tonight will show, Judaism has been practiced on Indian soil for nearly as long as all our other great faiths.
Tradition has it that Judaism first came to India as early as the 6th century BC. It is more likely, however, that the first Jews did not arrive in India until the 1st century AD. As Roman legions descended on the temple in Jerusalem and destroyed it, large number of Jews fled eastwards, eventually landing up on the coast of Kerala. The oldest Jewish settlement in India is in Cochin. The 4th century Travancore king, Raja Bhaskara Ravivarma, awarded the village of Anjuvanam to Joseph Rabban, chief of the local Jewish community, and his descendants, for as long as the world and the moon do exist. For more than 1,000 years after receiving that parcel of land, the Jewish community in Kerala prospered and flourished, though it did not grow significantly in numbers. The arrival in India of the Portuguese late in the 15th century was to transform all that. Albuquerque, the powerful Portuguese viceroy, sought and obtained his sovereign's permission to exterminate the Jews of Cranganore. Large number of Jews were killed by the Portuguese, and the old synagogue at Cranganore was razed to the ground. Fortunately for the Jews, the Dutch, who drove the Portuguese out of Travancore, were more tolerant. The community was allowed to found a new settlement in Mattancherry and build a synagogue there. Emigration to Holland, England, and since 1948 to Israel has seriously depleted the numbers of the Jewish community, not only in Travancore, but elsewhere in India as well. There is reason to fear that the rich and ancient Jewish tile might just disappear completely from the Indian mosaic of religions. Unless, of course, Orthodox Jews find some merit in the claims of a little band of worshippers amongst the Kukis in Manipur. Claiming to be descended from one of the lost tribes of Israel, the self-proclaimed Jews of Manipur rediscovered the faith of their forefathers only in recent times when they first came in contact with Christianity. After reading in the Bible of the Jewish diaspora, they realized that these accounts converged in many respects with the stories handed down to them by their ancestors. After being cast out of Palestine, their forefathers, they claim, took the overland route through Mesopotamia and Persia to Central Asia, then across China, before crossing into the verdant hills of northeastern India. During this arduous journey, which spanned more than 1,000 years, they lost the Jewish faith and adopted several practices and modes of worship specific to the natives of Manipur. Accounts of that great journey, however, continue to dominate the collective unconscious, a precious legacy handed down from generation to generation. In the final analysis, it is immaterial whether there is any historical or factual basis to the claims of the Kukis of Manipur that they are one of the lost tribes of Israel. In the intersection of fact, myth, and possible invention, what is fascinating and inspiring is the undercurrent of faith that refuses to be muddied by history.
Why do all great civilizations elevate music not only to the status of high art, but to divinity itself? The ancient Indians, like the early Greeks, refused to build monuments in stone or enshrine their thoughts in scrolls and carvings, although both were highly literate and skilled people. Could it be because music reposed entirely on human memory for its transmission from one generation to another? Did they believe that in the final analysis, human memory was the most enduring medium? The wind can wear away a pillar of granite to nothingness. Humidity can reduce scrolls to shreds. But what can erase human memory? Music then becomes not so much a way of communing with the Godhead as with the lingering essence of one's ancestors.
Machavaja
We all marvel at India's tradition of philosopher saints, many of whom have enriched our lives with their teachings, their wisdom, their music, and their inspiration. Foremost among these is the saint Basava, founder of Veerashaivanism. By the standards of its time, as indeed by our own, Basava strikes us not only as a great saint, but as a firebrand revolutionary, as one who restored to religion its broad and inclusive character, fighting constantly against convention and orthodoxy.
Sometime in the 12th century, in the Agrahara or Brahmin quarter of Bhagyawadi, a small town near Bijapur, a son was born to the Brahmin chief Mandageya Madiraja and his wife Madambe. The son was looked upon as the fruit of the couple's resolute tapas, and was therefore named after the family's patron deity Vrishabha. Commonly called Basava in the village, the lad grew up amidst affluence and affection. His intelligence and the thoroughness of his learning of Sanskrit seemed to mark him out as a potential chief in his father's footsteps. Yet Basava himself seemed to have other ideas. He voiced his concern at the plight of some of his playmates, many of whom did not enjoy the privileges he did. He wondered why the Holyas, or untouchables, were kept so far from the Agrahara that even his eyes would never fall upon them. It was clear to the community's leaders that young Basava would need watching. Basava's parents died when he was just 16. Promptly, he discarded his sacred thread, describing it as a creeper of karma. This gave the orthodox of Bhagyawadi just the excuse they needed. They conspired to make life difficult for Basava. He and his sister Akanadamma left for the temple town of Kudala Sangama at the confluence of the Malaprabha and Krishna rivers. Even as he entered the Sangameshwara temple, Basava felt elevated by the magic of Shiva. A temple official, moved by the young man's bhakti, offered him a home and work. Basava's task was to fetch water and flowers for the worship of Sangameshwara. The temple became the center of Basava's life. His devotion became legendary, as did his unorthodox manner of worship. Basava would sing, dance, clap his hands, address Shiva directly as he would a friend, caress the idol as he would a child. Devotees congregated in great numbers at the temple. Basava would sing his vachanas for them, make the gathering sing with him. Kudala Sangama became the seat of Basava's sadhana or spiritual learning. Here, his bhakti was tempered with experience and observation. He realized that the poor and the deprived were excluded from Shiva's shrine and resolved to create a new, inclusive religious order. But he realized reaching that goal would mean that he would first have to free himself from the shackles of charity, put himself beyond material needs. He moved to Mangalavede, to the court of the Kalachuri king Bijala, whose service he entered as an accountant. His honesty and brilliance soon brought him to the notice of the king, who made Basava the kingdom's treasurer. With his followers, Basava founded Veerashaivism. Bhakti to Shiva is the cornerstone of this path, the pursuit of a personal faith as opposed to worship in a temple. Veerashaivism requires its followers to give up meat and liquor, to pursue a profession and not live off charity, to respect women, and to consider all human beings as equal. Basava summed up its essence in a vachana. Thou shalt not steal, nor kill, nor speak a lie. Be angry with none. Scorn not another. Glory not in thyself. Hold no other to blame. In 1162, Bijala usurped the Chalukya throne and moved his capital from Mangalavede to Kalyan. Today, that town, seat of a 12th century revolution in Indian religion and society, has been renamed Basava Kalyan in recognition of its greatest ever citizen.
The most sobering, the most difficult, and yet most simple principles that all religions teach us is the inevitability of death, the futility of attempting to extend one's lees in life, of purchasing immortality. Yet the core of all secular human endeavor seems to be the desire to defy death, to attain in that one respect at least the attributes of divinity. How else, for example, can one explain the ongoing experiments in genetic cloning, which will almost certainly lead to human cloning? To all those who believe that science will somehow prevail over time, bring them Amrita, I commend this quotation from the Brahma-Vaivarta Purana. I have seen the dreadful dissolution of the universe. I have seen all perish again and again at the end of every cycle. Every single atom dissolves into the primal, pure waters of eternity. Everything goes back into the fathomless, wild infinity of the ocean, covered with utter darkness and empty of every sight and sign of animate being. Who will count the universes that have passed away, or the creations that have arisen afresh, again and again, from the formless abyss of the vast waters? Who will number the passing ages of the world as they follow each other endlessly? Who indeed? Thank you for watching Matters of Faith. Until we meet again next week, goodbye and good night.